Hi there, these comments are for FD, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT, and you're one of my TOEFL Writing Bootcamp students. You sent me an integrated writing practice test, I think a couple of days ago. I am now going to read, evaluate, score, and error correct this essay. So by the end of this video, you'll have a pretty good idea on what kinds of changes you need to make in order to score higher on this integrated writing practice test. Okay, my score here, I'm putting you at 3.0 out of 5, 20 points out of 30 on this. So I'm looking over here at the rubrics. And I think here you have some incomplete, inaccurate, or imprecise connection of the ideas in the lecture to the ideas in the reading, right? So I think particularly as it relates to that third point in the lecture. So that's what we'll be looking at during this particular video. Okay, let's see if we can do this right here. So, okay, on the right, I'm going to put the reading passage and the lecture. And then on the left here, we will put your essay, what you wrote. So, and we will make changes accordingly. All right, let's take a look at the first paragraph. So, the reading passage and the lecture are both about business success. The author in the reading provides several points that bring success maybe to businesses. Maybe say, however, it's a little bit informal to use a conjunction, a coordinated conjunction in the beginning of a sentence, right? So I'm going to change that to however. And as I go, I will take down some notes, and afterward, when I do a diagnostic of your grammar issues, I will use this information to help me. The lecture highlights some points that you want to say cast doubt, not caches doubt. So that's a word choice issue. That cast doubt on the claims made by the reading. So plural S. Okay, and so those are the basic changes I would make in that first paragraph. In the second paragraph, let's take a look at this. I'm looking at your transition words here. So we have first of all, we have second, and then we have third. So how about this? If you say first of all, then you want to say second of all, then third of all, or you can simply just say first. The author believes that arranging, I'm going to change this to plural, arranging meetings, encouraging employees to attend, not it is, but is a good idea. So you're having some sentence structure issues there because you're using arranging meetings, encouraging employees. This is your subject. It's a gerund phrase, so there's no need to have another subject in there. Is a good idea for, I'm going to change this to companies to succeed. And it says here, and if you really look at it, it's saying that it helps to discuss controversial issues, keep everyone up to date with current technology, right? So encouraging employees to attend minimizes, we'll say minimizes so it minimizes controversy, helps employees stay current. Notice how I'm saying current instead of up to date. So I added a little bit to the reading to make it a little bit more complete there, right? So let's see what we did so far. Say the author believes that arranging meetings and encouraging employees to attend minimizes controversy and helps employees stay current with technology in their respective jobs. However, the professor in the lecture rebuts, I'm going to say this idea. You could say either one, and thinks that organizing several meetings for employees, and let's double check here. So it's saying that limit the number of meetings, right? So organizing is a waste of time. Moreover, the speaker says that short meetings it says long meetings beyond 60 minutes, right? So 60 to 90 minutes. So you might say here, a professor in the lecture rebuts this idea and thinks that organizing several meetings for employees is a waste of time. Moreover, the speaker says that short meetings with employers may be useful if the meeting does not last more than... There's nothing in here that says 30 minutes. It's 60 minutes, right? If we go over here, it's saying when you read it says long meetings beyond 60 to 90 minutes are usually unproductive. It says make clear you can stay only for the first 60 minutes. So that's a problem. Make sure that the information you explain is accurate. It accurately reflects what was actually said in there. He continued by saying that employees sometimes can politely... I'm going to put this before the verb, not after. The adverb there can politely decline meetings, and it's saying here, if that's not an option, politely decline meeting invitations by pointing to impending deadlines, or say you can only go for the first 60 minutes, right? If they I'm going to say this, have to attend maybe for the first 60 minutes, right? Sometimes you can't get out of meetings, right? I think this kind of says what we're trying to say from the lecture here. So it says he continues by saying that employees sometimes can politely decline meetings, but if they have to attend, the employees should make it clear that they can attend only for the first 60 minutes so they can focus on more crucial things in their work. And typically we use work as an uncount noun, which means it does not have the plural s ending. Okay. Okay, in your second body paragraph, let's see what you have. So second, the author mentions that all employees should read all required training materials and reports. But I would support this. Why are they being told to do that, right? It says it will help them perform their jobs more effectively. That's what it says in the reading passage, right? And then employees focusing on main and minor details are encouraged to read all documents in their entirety. Should read all required training materials and reports in their entirety as much as will help them. Will help them to execute. I'm using the word execute. Why? Because execute is a synonym for the word perform, where it says in the reading, perform their jobs more effectively. To execute their jobs effectively. I'm going to use the word in contrast. Why am I doing that? You usually when you put but or and or at the beginning of a sentence, it makes it a little bit less formal because you're using a coordinating conjunction in the place of a transition word. But a transition word, I think, is better in this case. So it says, in contrast, the professor says it is a waste of time for employees trying to read all information. And try to read all instead. The employee should try to understand the main ideas let's take a look at this here. So it says here, it says another way to become more efficient is you don't need to read the full text of everything you come across in the course of your work. It said most likely only a very small part of the article is vital to your work. It says once you start reading a text, make it a point to search for what's important while skipping less relevant sections, right? So instead, the employee should try to understand the most relevant ideas, because usually contain a big idea or two important examples. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. I think that we're in pretty good shape with this idea here. This is where we run into trouble right here, is the third one. This is one of the reasons I gave you a score of 3 on this particular practice. Okay, let's look at this last paragraph. So here's the issue here. You say the author mentions that all employees should be assigned to write a report. But remember, when you're summarizing, you want to make sure you're not leaving out important information, right? You're not changing the meaning of anything. Now, if you look over here, it's saying that these employees should not try to separate the steps in the writing process because it's time consuming when they're assigned to write reports. So you didn't explain that idea. So we're going to change this. When employees are assigned to write reports, I'm going to separate this with a comma. They should bypass these steps maybe learned in college, since they are too time consuming. That is why I think this is important, because if you look in here, it's saying they will attempt to use all the required stages in the writing process. These employees should try not to separate the steps because it's too time consuming. They should write the document all at once. And you didn't really say that. So your summary, at least of the reading passage, was not entirely accurate. And that's really one of the main reasons I scored you in the 3 areas. So you have to make sure you're not leaving out important information. Okay, so you say the professor challenges that point, says that writing a memorial at the same time is useless. Employees should only write an outline on what to say and go through the main idea. See, this is where you're running into troubles. It's not entirely accurate what you're saying. So go over here. It says a better approach separates the main steps in the writing process. First, compose an outline for what you're going to say in what order, then write a rough draft, then go back over your work. And it's saying here, following these steps in the writing process will ensure that you complete your writing projects in a timely and accurate manner. So the professor, you might say, on the other hand, challenges that point and says, so writing documents all at once without following the steps in the writing process, as it says, it leads to very slow writing. You might want to say, instead, the speaker suggests that employees should write, we'll say outlines. They should write outlines, a rough draft, we'll put here should write outlines and rough drafts. And what it's saying here, they should and I think that's good enough there. So this is the big issue here. So you have to make sure you have a complete and accurate presentation of the ideas, right? Okay, let's look at this paragraph. So third, the author mentions that when employees are assigned to write reports, they should bypass or skip the steps of the writing process learned in college since they are too time consuming. The professor, on the other hand, challenges that point and says that writing documents all at once without following the steps in the writing process leads to very slow writing. Instead, the speaker suggests that employees should write outlines and rough drafts and that they should edit and revise their work as needed. Then you should probably have just a short conclusion. I'll show you what you can do here. In the final paragraph, and by the way, it's not necessary that you have a conclusion, but if you put one in there, it can be really short like this. In conclusion, the reading and listening passage have conflicting points of view, maybe make this plural, when it comes to what businesses should do in order to be successful. So that's the example of the introduction. Okay, let's take a look one more time. And basically, I'm rewriting the essay showing you how to get a perfect score of 5 out of 5 or 30 points out of 30, right? Okay, we're going to read this thing one more time. Then I'm going to go to my website. I'll recommend some lessons I think you can focus on in order to improve. The reading passage and the lecture are both about business success. The author in the reading provides several points that bring success to businesses. However, in the lecture, the professor highlights some points that cast doubt or that cast doubts on the claims made by the reading. First, the author believes that arranging meetings and encouraging employees to attend minimizes controversy and helps employees stay current with technology in their respective jobs. However, the professor in the lecture rebuts this idea and thinks that organizing several meetings for employees is a waste of time. Moreover, the speaker says short meetings with employers may be useful if the meeting does not last more than 60 minutes. He continues by saying that employees sometimes can politely decline meetings, but if they have to attend, the employees should make it clear that they can attend only for the first 60 minutes so they can focus on more crucial things in their work. Then we have second, the author mentions that all employees should read all required training materials and reports in their entirety, inasmuch as these supplementary reading materials will help them to execute their jobs more effectively. In contrast, the professor says it is a waste of time for employees trying to read all the information. Instead, the employees should try to understand the most relevant ideas probably too many tries in here. So it's a waste of time for employees to read all the information. Instead, the employees should understand the most relevant ideas, because usually work-related documents contain a big idea or two important examples. Okay, third, and this is where you ran into the most trouble, by the way. The author mentions that when employees are assigned to write reports, they should bypass the steps of the writing process learned in college since they are too time-consuming. The professor, on the other hand, challenges that point and says that writing documents all at once without following the steps in the writing process leads to very slow writing. Instead, the speaker suggests that employees should write outlines and rough drafts, and that they should edit and revise their work as needed. In conclusion, the reading and listening passages have conflicting points of view when it comes to what businesses should do in order to be successful. And there it is. So these are the changes that I suggest you make in order to get a perfect score of 5 on this writing practice test. Yeah, hi there, and let's take a look at my website now. This is part of what I call a diagnostic. So based on the writing problems that you're having right now, I'm going to recommend some lessons in my website that can help you. So vocabulary, I think you're okay here. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Pronunciation, no. Let's go to grammar. Yes, I think you can do some practice here. You need to be comfortable with... Yeah, this will help you with your grammar a little bit. How about lesson number 3 and 4, sentences with participial phrases and appositives. Lesson 5, compound sentences. Take a look at that. Definitely yes, yes, and yes. Lesson 9, sentences with multiple clauses, especially with integrated writing. You need a little bit better handle on that. I think word choice, lesson 13. Lesson 16, count and non-count nouns, I think is a good lesson for you right now. What else here? I'm taking a look here. Not too bad here. Lesson number 27, being more concise in your writing. I think this is a good lesson for you. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, listening. Yes, I think listening is important for you. Remember that you didn't catch exactly the main idea of the third point in the listening passage. So I recommend continue to go through some of my listening practice tests and complete those comprehension exercises at the end of the lecture. And also, if you want, you can listen to the lecture, you can take down some notes, and then you can practice speaking and writing about that information. So really focus a lot on your listening right now, because that is a key area that you need to improve on. I think reading passage maybe is also something you can take a look at, because remember, sometimes you're not exactly getting the most important points of the reading passage and you're not writing these down. So if you go over lesson number 1, reading and note-taking strategies, again, if you go through some of my reading practice tests here, obviously you can focus on improving your reading speed, which is good, and that's going to help you for integrated writing. But also, you want to focus on getting down in note form the most important points from these reading passages, then being able to write about that information. So that's something that you can also work on. I think we're okay here. Writing generally, I think your structure for the integrated writing task is pretty good. You have a good idea of how to connect the information together, so I'm not going to really make any major comments on that. So these are some areas that I think that you should focus on in order to improve your writing proficiency. All right? And thank you for doing this practice test.